My name is Joseph Yu. My legal name is Yu Song-ung, and I am 42 years old. I moved to the States when I was 6 years old, so my Korean is about kindergarten level as well. My mom's side of the family all had already moved to California, and they kept saying, you should come, you should come, you should come, and I think they finally decided to go. My dad's the one that gave up everything to follow because he had a church in Korea, all of his family was in Korea, but I guess the American dream for their son was something worth taking the risk for. We moved where a lot of Korean people are because my dad predominantly ministered at Korean immigrant churches. My family has way too many pastors. So my dad is a pastor, and on my dad's side, his oldest brother is a pastor. That uncle has 3 kids. 2 of them are pastors, and one of them is married to a pastor. On my mom's side, my maternal grandfather was a pastor, my uncle is a pastor, and my youngest aunt is married to a pastor. My wife is ordained United Methodist deacon, and her father is a retired United Methodist pastor. And then she has cousins that are like pastors. So there's a lot of us. My mom has told me throughout my childhood that when she was pregnant with me, and then this was before you could tell the gender of the child, she said she would go to church daily and pray that I would be a son, and that if I was a son, she would dedicate me to becoming a pastor. And so there was this there was this expectation that I was to be a pastor growing up. When you're a kid, and you're like the best, your dad's like a superhero, and so of course I wanted to be like my dad and whatnot. And then I became a teenager, and I realized that's not a cool job. I don't want to do that. I wanted to do all sorts of things, but that was the last thing I wanted to do. He would tell all of his friends and church folks, when my son grows up, he's going to be a pastor, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then people will be like, is that true? Are you going to be a pastor? I'm like, yeah, sure. But the older I got, I was like, this is the last thing I want to do. On top of that, there's so much pressure from Korean churches. I don't know what it's like being like a white pastor's kid, but as a Korean pastor's kid, the expectation that Korean church folks has on their pastors, it's a bit ridiculous. It almost feels like we're not going to live up to what the Bible says, but we want you to, and your family to. And I remember in high school, in high school, it was 90s, and baggy jeans and baggy pants and oversized shirts was a thing. And then for the Korean, HOT was the biggest thing. So all of us had the long bangs, and my dad wouldn't let me color my hair because he just wouldn't. So I was walking around Pearl Ridge Mall in Hawaii with my friends and just wearing what I normally wear, baggy shorts and whatnot. And my mom calls me and she says, what are you wearing? Because a church member called me and said that you're walking around looking like a thug. I'm like, really? What? So it was like, there's just all these weird expectations that is placed on, not just by your family, but by the entire church. And I didn't want anything to do with that. So I was like, I'm not gonna do this. This is not for me. This is my dad's dream. I majored in psychology at University of Hawaii, and I really thought that maybe my next step is going to grad school for psychology. At University of Hawaii had, at that time, a pretty strong graduate program. And so my plan was it was my senior year, so I was 23 in college. I was gonna apply to grad school, and when I got in, I was gonna tell my dad, hey, seminary and ministry, it's not a no, but it's on the back burner because I want to pursue this. Before I even got to turn in my application, my dad called me home and said, there's this event in Chicago that I want you to go to. And it was a United Methodist thing where kids and people under 25 were invited to come if they were exploring a call to ministry. It was on the weekend of my 23rd. It was on the weekend of my 23rd birthday, and I was like, it's on my birthday weekend, I don't want to go. And he's like, oh no, you're going. So I went against my wishes, but in that little weekend in Chicago, everything just started falling into place, and I had this horrible realization. I still remember, it was just, I didn't want this for me, but it was this realization that all this time, this wasn't what my dad was expecting me to do, but this was part of my calling as well. I never had to have that conversation with my dad, telling them that I don't want to go into ministry because I don't think that's for me, because it turned out it was, or it is for me, for better or worse. I always wanted kids. My wife, not so much. We decided to wait a little bit after we got married so that we could at least know if this was going to last. When we decided that we were going to intentionally try to expand our family, for whatever reason, it just wasn't happening. We just couldn't figure out what was wrong. Like, we did all the tests that we possibly could, and everything was working for Rahel, everything was working for me. It just wasn't happening for us. I think my wife made peace with it a lot sooner than I did. And it was like eating at me. It really sucked for us because it wasn't happening for us. And like, it's just so unfair. And then everyone is getting pregnant so easily. So my wife was always was always interested in opening our home to foster children. And I really was hesitant, but after a while, when we moved to Santa Barbara in 2012, one of the first things we did was to be licensed or to be certified foster parents, and went through the training and all that. We one day got a call saying that there's this boy that is available. The county told us that he had language delays. So we picked him up from Casa Pacifica in Camarillo and drove all the way back to Santa Barbara. And in that drive on the 101 stuck in traffic, we're like, this is not just language delays. They told us this was for reunification. And reunification, usually a year and a half to 2 years until the parents get all the court-ordered things out of the way. They just kept missing court-ordered appointments and counseling appointments and whatnot. And Nathaniel was going to be up for adoption. The state came back and asked us, "Do you want to take Nathaniel?" And we said, "Sure, let's go for it." At that time, it was such a crazy time because at the time we're dealing with the adoption thing, and we were talking to Texas and trying to see if we could move to Texas. And both of the decisions were made at around the same time. Like, yes, we'll adopt, and yes, we're moving to Texas. I think that was around January of 2016. And so we got the court process moving, and literally on a Friday, we finalized adoption, and then on Monday, we moved to Texas. We met him in 2014. He was 3.5, and now he's this big 12-year-old boy that's taller than his mom. He is a source of joy in our lives, and everyone's lives, apparently. My parents were against us adopting him. They were against us fostering to begin with, but they were really, really against adopting him. And I remember having these conversations with both my parents, and I was like, what is going on? But I think part of it was they're really looking out for us in the sense that he's on the autism spectrum. If he was born to us biologically and was like that, it's a different story. But we're opting into this lifestyle or this struggle, and I think that's something my parents were kind of like, why would you do that, whatnot. But yeah, they were really, really strong against it. And I remember like trying my best not to lose my cool, because we're at a restaurant and it was just me and my parents. I forgot why Rahel and Nathaniel weren't there, but they like laid in and talking about like why we should do it and just saying really weird stuff that was completely fear-based. And I'm like, y'all watch way too much Korean dramas. Like it's not gonna happen that way. Looking back, I understand where they were coming from, but at the time I was like, y'all are way too much. I think they just finally realized that we're gonna do what's best for us. And I should say, like, they've been nothing but supportive and loving ever since. When my mom, at the wedding that we're at, a month before the adoption was going to be finalized, we had to attend a wedding that was going to have all these Korean folks and Korean church folks at that. And my mom took Nathaniel's hand and started introducing him to everyone as, this is my grandson from the heart. And I was like, okay, so, like, there's not going to be any more issue after that. And that was like a really, I didn't realize how much resentment I had for my parents. I felt it like washing away as I heard her, calling him grandson from the heart. And I was like, oh, let's not cry here in front of all these Koreans. That was a really, really, pivotal moment for all of us, I think. So Nathaniel has always been a source of joy for everyone. He is able to find joy in the little things that we often overlook. Like one morning, I decided to have cereal with him, and as soon as I sat down, pour my cereal in my bowl, he started like stimming, like flapping so hard. And he goes, "I'm so happy you're having cereal with me. It's my lucky day." I'm like, who thinks like that? It's just a bowl of cereal. I'm like, kid, let me have my coffee first. Like, let's calm down a little bit. But he is just able to find joy in everything. The one thing that I will say, preaching wise, is I was told that joyful people are holy people. Because when you are in joy, you're most likely to see things that other people don't see, and I truly believe that my son is a holy person, just the way he finds joy in everything, finds joy in bubbles floating around, joy in having cereal, joy in seeing someone. That's what it means to be human, is to just find joy in the little things in life. My name is Joseph Yu, and this is my Korean American story.